We all know George R.R. Martin today for Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. He's world famous these days as a fantasy author, but he has also been a screenwriter in the past. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the TV show Beauty and the Beast. It ran from 1987 till 1990. George R.R. Martin was actually a head writer on this series. I'm a fan of this show, but it's one of the strangest shows I've ever seen. It was actually created by a gentleman called Ron Koslow, not George R.R. Martin, but George R.R. Martin was hired as one of the main writers. But it was a weird show. Ron Perlman played the Beast, Vincent. Linda Hamilton played the Beauty, Catherine. She is a socialite in New York City. She's very rich. Her family's very rich. Her fiancé is very rich. Everything around her is just kind of shallow, kind of surface level. You know, we see her at this party and everyone's like, they're only interested in money and who's who. And Catherine doesn't really fit into that world. One night, she's abducted on the streets of New York. These guys are holding a knife up to her. They believe that she's someone else. And they mistakenly attack her, leave her for dead, dump her near Central Park. She's rescued by a beast man called Vincent. He takes her underground. Apparently in this world, there's like another world underneath New York City, which no one is aware of. I don't know, the 80s, man. She is rescued by Vincent. He nurses her. He reads her Shakespeare because that's like his thing. She sort of falls in love with him before she sees him because her face is all wrapped up at this point. And eventually it's time to release her back to the world above. She finally gets to see Vincent. And it's like love at first sight. She sees this beautiful lion man thing. And she's just like, yep, that's the man. That's the man for me. And they've got this like soulmate bond. There's like a weird scene before she leaves the tunnels where she hugs Vincent and Vincent's all like, ooh, his reaction is too much, but it's because they've got a soulmate bond and he's like connected to her spiritually. Anyway, he's got this dude called Father, who is actually played by Roy Dotrice, who went on to do the audiobooks for Song of Ice and Fire. That's how he met George R.R. Martin. And he's like this wise old guy, and he runs the underground community of misfits. Father found Vincent as a baby in front of St. Vincent's Hospital, and he was like, ooh, that baby's a freak, I'm gonna take it home. So he did. He just grew up as a monster and no explanation is given whatsoever. Oh my god, his arm just fell off. I'm gonna have to E6000 that. Have a cup of tea. So Catherine goes back to the world above and she discovers that the social life she led before is full of shallow, horrible people. She decides to quit her job. I think she was a lawyer, and she becomes district attorney. As an Australian, I don't really know what a district attorney is, but she's essentially a detective. She works for this really hot guy called Joe, and he's the coolest guy in the whole world. She goes out into the world, she solves crimes. Vincent, in the meantime, has developed a psychic bond with her. He's a beast man, and we literally get no explanation as to why he looks like this. He just does. He's just a beast. The fact that they've got this psychic bond where he can always sense where she is, what she's feeling, if she's in danger. We don't know why. She goes on solving crimes, except most of the criminals that she goes after eventually turn on her, which results in Vincent, because of his bond, right? He can sense that she's in danger. He just appears out of nowhere because he can come out of like any sewer anywhere in New York City, and he mauls them to death viciously. Like, he uses his claws, he uses his teeth, he just pulls them apart. And no one ever questions this. I think he kills like 50 people during like Catherine's time as a detective. All of her cases end in random bear attacks in New York City. And everyone's like, what can you do? That's weird, but we're not going to look into it any further. Oh, look, another one of Catherine's cases ended in a random bear attack. Cool, let's move on. The episodes are bizarre. Some episodes are amazing. Some episodes really, they pull at your heartstrings. And other episodes are so bizarre that you wish you never saw them. Some episodes just have you sitting there at the end going, what the fuck was that? Look, the main thing throughout the whole show is Catherine and Vincent's relationship. But weirdly, Vincent never seems to be allowed to go within Catherine's apartment. She's she's rich, right? So she's got this like swanky ass apartment overlooking Central Park, because of course she does. And Vincent just like appears on her balcony every night, where they like hug or read poetry together, or just, you know, just talk shit about like what's been happening in their lives. But he's never allowed in the apartment, and they're clearly in love with each other, but they never kiss. And it turns out that they weren't allowed to kiss. According to the television network that screened Beauty and the Beast back in 1987, they didn't want the two characters kissing because Vincent looked too much like a beast. He looked too much like an animal. The idea of the first season was that at the very end, there's a moment where Catherine and Vincent kind of break apart because she lives above ground, he lives below ground. So even though they're soulmates, it's like, oh, we can never work, we need to separate. But of course, they can't stay separated. So they come back together in this really emotional scene. It takes 10 minutes for Catherine to run towards him in Central Park, and they come together and they kiss. Except they don't. So the kiss was filmed, but the television network at the time saw the kiss and they were like, ugh, looks like bestiality. I don't know if we want to screen that. So they screened it, but with like a bizarre overlay over the top. You saw the kiss, but you didn't see the kiss. It was super obscured. And mind you, this is also like the days of VHS quality. So it's already super low quality video. And then they put this overlay over the top and it was just a rip. It was infuriating watching season 1. The whole time you're watching, like, just the chemistry between Catherine and Vincent is so high. And you're just like, make out with each other, make out with each other, make out with each other. And then they do, but they don't. And that's the end of season 1. Season 2, they're basically in an established relationship, sort of. They are, but we're never allowed to see any of it. I mean, we're allowed to see the usual interactions. They're hugging, but still, they're not really allowed to kiss. All of Catherine's criminal investigations continue to end in random bear attacks. She continues to make some weird decisions in her life. Like, there's one episode where she's got this stalker who seems like he wants to kill her. And the obvious answer to me is like, hide with Vincent in the underground. Duh, this dude's gonna kill you. No, she can't do that. Apparently that's giving in. What the fuck? Anyway, so like she ends up being kidnapped by this dude and none of this makes any sense. He sticks her in the boot of a car and like drowns the car in Central Park in a lake. Okay, cool. So Vincent comes in, bear attacks the guy, kills him, pulls Catherine out of the car. We get this amazing scene of her like almost reuniting with her dead parents, and then Vincent like steals her out of the daydream. I don't know. Amazing shit. There was one episode where Catherine's father died, so she goes underground and she's like hanging out with Vincent while she's mourning, right? At the end of that episode, before she leaves, she kisses Vincent on the lips as a thank you. And we get to see it, and it hasn't got like some weird overlay, it's not like hidden in the background of a scene, boom, we get to see it. I don't know how they got that past the censors, but I'm glad they did, because it's the most we ever got. Peck on the lips, that's all we got. So, what happened? Well, Beauty and the Beast was extremely popular. As a matter of fact, in 1988, Vincent was voted the 8th most sexiest man on television. So where did it go wrong? Well, it went wrong when Linda Hamilton decided to leave the show. Can't entirely blame her. She quit the series. But here's the thing. This is Beauty and the Beast. You can't continue the show if you only got the Beast left. Linda Hamilton's announced that she wants to leave. Alright, how do we write her out? Oh, of course, we're going to cruelly murder her over the space of 2 episodes. This most beloved character. Yeah, we're just gonna take her out. But first, we need to get her pregnant. So Vincent, in like the last 2 episodes of season 2, goes through like this beast man puberty or some shit. I don't know, it's weird. And Father's like, oh, he's done this before and gave us all a terrible fright. And Catherine's like, no, I can change him. But you can't really. We don't know what he is. He's not human. He's humanoid. He's intelligent, but he's a beast man. I don't know why. No one ever told us. So Vincent goes through like his weird puberty. And that ends in him like freaking out in the underground in like some bizarre cave, and he's just like screaming and sweating and trying to kill anyone that comes near him. And then Catherine goes down and Father's like, no, don't go near him, he will kill you. And she's like, no, my love will fix him. And she goes into the cave and then he passes out. And then we get, I don't know what we get. I think it's a sex scene, but it's not a sex scene. It's a shot of like a rose going into bloom, and then like we're zooming in on Catherine's face and Vincent's face, unconscious. By the way, he's unconscious throughout the whole thing. And there's weird music in the background, weird romantic music. And after this scene, Catherine is pregnant. Like, I can't put it to you any other way. When all of this is done, Father comes in and checks on them, and Catherine's all like, oh no, he's going to be fine now. He's totally calm now. And he is, but he's forgotten everything. Catherine has no idea she's pregnant. Vincent can't remember shit. She incidentally finds out she's pregnant after, like, a blood test. She was, like, going to donate blood to Joe or some shit. She tries to tell Vincent, but she can't because he can't remember having sex. So she never tells him. And in the meantime, this, like, criminal overlord dude, he is on the scene and he is, like, spying on Catherine and Vincent. So he figures out that Catherine's dating a weird beast man. And he decides, oh, that's awesome. And then he sees that Catherine's pregnant. So he kidnaps her with the intention of stealing the beast baby. I wish I was making this up. Vincent, in the meantime, has lost his psychic connection with Catherine. Like, from the day they had sex, he's got no connection to her whatsoever. So he can't sense where she is, he can't sense when she's in danger, nothing. So she's kidnapped, and Vincent can't get to her. As viewers, we're like, no, this will resolve, he'll save her. He always saves her. This is what happens every episode. But then months pass, and months pass. There's one moment where he briefly senses where she is when she's being moved. He, like, is on top of the car, but then the car that she's being taken away in, then the car speeds away from him, and he falls off, and then he's lost her again. 9 months pass, and the day comes where she goes into labour. And at that exact moment, Vincent finally can sense where she is again. But is it Catherine he's sensing, or is it his child? Spoilers, it's the child. Catherine goes through the birth. As soon as she has given birth, she is given a lethal injection. Baby's taken away. Vincent finally reaches the hospital or wherever the hell she is. And he's sensing her, but she's not there. Instead, it's a baby being taken away in a helicopter. But, like, Catherine's senses are following the helicopter, and he's like, what the hell is going on? And then Catherine appears on the rooftop, but she's dying because she's just had the lethal injection. And she's like, oh yeah, that's your kid in the helicopter. They stole our child. Vincent's like, oh my god, when did we even have sex? And then Catherine dies in his arms. The next episode, he carries her body to her apartment. He kisses her body, which we get to see. Yeah, great, thanks. It's the second on-screen kiss we ever got for the two of them. Proper on-screen kiss, and she's dead. And then he spends, like, the whole of the third season trying to get his son back, because of course he can sense his son. I couldn't watch the third season. I know he does eventually get his son, because I, like, skimmed through it. You can't have Beauty and the Beast with just the Beast. It doesn't work. It's too depressing. Do you know, I was mourning Catherine for, like, a whole week, as though I'd lost a friend. I binge-watched this whole show, and I got really involved in it, and then she dies. I don't know how much involvement George R.R. Martin had in writing Catherine's death. I don't know if it was like a precursor to Song of Ice and Fire, but it's pretty tough. And honestly, I wouldn't recommend the TV show Beauty and the Beast to anyone based on Catherine's death. Seasons 1 to 2, with the exception of like the last episode of season 2, fine, watch them. Some episodes are fun, but it's not worth it because there's no happy ending. It's not even that there isn't a happy ending, it's that there's just a crushing depression at the end. So that was Beauty and the Beast. If you're gonna watch it, take caution.